Wallabies Lions test number 2, folks. Belter of a game. 90,000 fans at the MCG. 29-26. Last minute try for the Lions. Wallabies early lead. 23-5 they were up. But only 3 points after scoring the initial 23 lets them down. Sadly, I get the feeling 90% of the comments about this game, not on any one particular site, but just generally, the discourse around the game is going to be about the final call and whether Jack Morgan cleaned out Tizano illegally and whether that cost the Wallabies the game. I hate that a rugby game which was that good and had so many key moments and swings and roundabouts and whatnot is basically going to get boiled down to one refereeing call. I don't think that's right, but I think that's probably how it's going to go, my guess. Game's only just happened, but I'm guessing. Whether you think it was a illegal clean-out or not, I do think there were other factors at play that decided the game, but for my 2 cents worth, I don't know that I would have blown the penalty on that one because I think clean-outs like that happen a lot. First contact I didn't think was directly to the head. But if you saw it different, I wouldn't blame you because that's the way rugby goes these days. You know, you slow things down, you look at it from different angles, look at it with a different pair of eyes, you can see different stuff. For the game itself, the Wallabies had some issues and they had some strengths compared to last week. I don't think the Lions will be entirely happy with their first half. It was a bit of a reversal from last week. Like the Wallabies were certainly looking shaky at the restarts or kickoffs, but their scrum was under pressure, which wasn't the case last week. The Wallabies had Valentini, who was getting some go-forward ball. They had Will Skelton, who was drawing in tacklers. They had little line-out plays. Like I said in the preview, that both Skelton and Valentini aren't really big line-out options. Who did their first 2 line-outs go? First one to Skelton at the front, no jump. Second one to Valentini, way over the top at the back. They were getting creative to avoid just having to throw every line out to Nick Frost. So that was pleasing. But geez, did the Lions find some of the best touch find kicks I've ever seen. Like so many of their kicks from miles out were just putting their forwards in prime position. And they were just so good, particularly in the second half, but just generally at getting over the advantage line. You saw the Wallabies forwards largely, I mean, maybe Valentini's a bit of an exception, but battering that Lions front door and it wasn't moving. Whereas the Lions guys were quite easily getting over the Wallabies advantage line. The Wallabies were able to absorb the pressure until they got back to their goal line, and then they would obviously have nowhere else to go and end up scoring. But anyway, we'll go through some of the key events and the stats. You guys can let us know your thoughts. Nice carries from the Wallabies guys initially. I think the forwards came out with a bit of fire and brimstone. Lions conceded a couple of penalties. Wallabies opted for 3. So nailed that one at 3 points to 0. Pleasing start for them. They were looking powerful and energetic, and the Lions were just looking a little bit off the pace. Like Finn Russell, early attacking move, passes it into touch. It's not the kind of thing we'd seen up in like the first half last week. The Lions were looking the more kind of clinical of the sides. Curry gets penalised for not releasing at the breakdown. Wallabies have a second shot at goal. It's a 40-metre shot. Slides in, just like on the inside of the right-hand upright. 6-0 to the Wallabies, potentially a perfect start. And the Wallabies were looking to get up front and physical in the Lions' faces. Like Will Skelton hit, I think was it Porter? A wee bit late after the referee had blown his whistle. Oh no, it was Furlong. Gave him a wee shot after the whistle. And the ref just kind of said, hey, don't do that. And, it's a big stadium. I didn't hear you, but there was handbags involved. And I think it was clear that the Wallabies guys wanted to get up in the Lions forwards' faces just to show it was going to be a different story from last week. Wallabies, though, from the resulting penalties, which they had conceded, they end up conceding the first try of the game. The Lions, they go line out. They tried popping a set play, which kind of didn't work out. They didn't just set for the maul, but Aki had gone close. Conan ended up knocking on over the line, so try TMO for the Lions, but back for a penalty. 5-metre tap, phases offside, 5-metre tap again, and then you got a creative wee move where Dan Sheehan kind of supermans over the Aussie defenders, by which I mean he dives over them. For mine, and again, this is just one of those, depends on which way you look at it. Like I didn't like that call more than I didn't like the final call. I could have seen Sheehan getting pinged for diving over the tackles. I know you are allowed to dive for the try line, and that's what the referee said. But you're also not to kind of... they usually rule it as acting in a dangerous way if you try to avoid tacklers. And I've certainly seen guys hurdle over tacklers way worse than I've seen Dan Sheehan, but I have seen them also clamping down on that a little bit more. Referee says he's diving for the try line. That's fine. If on another day another ref had said, hey, you're too far back from the try line to be diving or whatever, it's not written in stone how it's ruled, the referee's got a bit of interpretation to give, I could have seen it being blown the other way, but it's not. And it's 5 points on the board for the Lions. It's a 1 point game. Then we get Potter, the winger for the Aussies, go off, which kind of sucks for them because they had a 6-2 bench. I assumed they would bring on Donaldson, who plays fullback at times, to come on at 15 and then shift Tom Wright to the wing because he's also played wing. But they put Tate McDermott, the halfback, on the wing, and he actually looked all right. I was a little bit surprised the Lions didn't try to exploit that a bit more by sending kind of high balls his way, sending kickoffs his way, just trying to get the ball into the hands of Tommy Freeman more to take on the wee halfback on the wing. But it didn't really seem to cost the Wallabies in that regard. But they certainly lost the ability to have the punch of McDermott, who is a great halfback, to come off and add some physical presence from the bench. So such is the risk of having a 6-2 split, right? You have to bring on your halfback earlier than expected. 22 minutes, the Aussies had a couple of maul attempts. There was a yellow card warning for the Lions, and then they've managed to get their first try, and it was bloody James Slipper. Who had him as first Wallabies try scorer? Not this guy. He is not a renowned try scorer, but he managed to power over from close range. Ikitau had gone close. McCright had a big carry, and Freeman also got himself a yellow card. That's part of the reason he wasn't initially attacking Tate McDermott's wing, because he was in the bin. So 11 points to 5, the Wallabies extend their lead. Then you had Tom Wright, who was playing with all kinds of confidence, kick a beauty of a 50-22 after a few phases earlier not opting to boot the ball long when he probably should have done so, like by the standard way to play the game from your own 22. Didn't take the safe option up to the back his team to run it out of their own 22 for a bit, and he was rewarded with a crack in 50-22. They had a bunch of phases in the Lions half. Skelton had a big carry, Bobby V over the advantage line, and then finally, after the forwards had been having a crack at it, Jake Gordon just changed things up with a wee snipe. He goes over 18 points to 5. And then from that resulting restart, the Wallabies, Jorgensen has a big carry. The Aussies want to play. Suaalii gets himself into space. Tom Wright with the support line. Great try. That's like I said, literally from the kickoff. Bang, bang. 2 tries. 23-5. 23-5. That is a hell of a lead when you are trying to come back after a really... I don't want to say disappointing game one, because they finished the game one strong, did the Wallabies, but like they were well written off. 14-point favourites or whatever the Lions were. So 23-5 is a hell of a lead. But yeah, they only scored 26 points, the Wallabies. And they got 23 of them within those kind of first half an hour. That's obviously not ideal. The Lions really started to get back into the game, and it didn't take them too long, man. They started when Liner just dropped a pretty straightforward box kick from Gibson Park, which was unfortunate. That territorial pressure led to the Lions attacking. You had Jack Conan from a Gibson Park pass, chucking it out to Curry out in the wing. He had a wee step. Gordon overcommitted on the tackle. I don't know if he would have stopped him anyway. Missed conversion, but 23-10. And then the Aussies had a penalty conceded from the restart with a no-arms shot. Was it Suaalii? Then Russell, 5 metres out with the touch finder. Yeah, sets up the next try. This one, it's Jones, and I think it was Keenan after Gibson Park. Like the kind of Irish connection, Gibson Park to Keenan, and then Jones powers through 2 Wallabies defenders, 23-17. Like, that's a pretty quick evaporation of a pretty big lead. You're down to a 1-score game after being looking pretty comfortable. That you can look at the Wallabies' tries as being soft in terms of the ones they conceded, but yeah, the Lions guys were just executing. That kick for touch is what creates that try, and that's punishing a Wallabies mistake with that with the dropped ball earlier, then punishing a no-arms tackle. So that's what good sides do, man. They punish you. The Wallabies had 63% possession at halftime. They had 260 plus run meters to 121. They'd beaten 19 defenders to 6. They had 5 clean breaks to 1. They should have been up by more. They really shouldn't have conceded those last 2 tries. But as I said, Lions started the comeback early. And then the Aussies, they had chances, man. They had chances. You got to give a lot of credit to the Lions' defense, because the Wallabies could have had a flying start to that second half. I mean, they had scrums attacking in the Lions' territory. They had lineouts. The Lions didn't have a heck of a lot of possession. They did manage to eke out 3 points from a penalty. But that's it. And it took them a lot of phases to get there. Now, sadly for them, they had subbed off Valentini. He didn't come out for the second half. They'd subbed out the 2 props. And Skelton lasted like less than 10 minutes. And you feel like they lost a fair bit of the forward punch. The backs still look like they could be up for anything, but how many times did you see McCright or Wilson just carry and get driven back by big Lions tacklers? They just couldn't find the same punch they had in the first half. And then the Lions, they showed that they could basically, with every carry, get over the advantage line. It doesn't matter if it was Morgan or Byrne or Itoje. All these guys were able to, and it was Byrne that was able to finish it off out in the left wing. They got a try to make it a two-point game. James Lowe had a nice try assist to help set that one up in a game that otherwise was, I feel like, a little bit uneventful for him at times. But yeah, the Wallabies were hanging on. At 2 points, I felt like if the Wallabies go behind there, they're not coming back. But they might be able to hang on to a 2-score lead, and they held on for ages. Tizano won a penalty on their own goal line, which stopped the Wallabies kind of conceding a quick-fire double. But yeah, the scrum was getting dominant for the Lions. People will always talk about Andrew Porter, whether he's angling in or not, but they weren't pinging him for it. And yeah, just so many carries over the advantage line. 79th minute, hell of a set of phases from the Lions. Finished by Hugo Keenan. It was coming. It was coming for days, that try. They did go back to check the TMO clean out of Morgan on Tizano. Tizano tries his best to sell it by grabbing his head, because that's the way many players get the attention of the TMO these days. He did check it, but they ruled that there was no foul play. And as I said, I can understand it. If they had said that there was enough head contact for a penalty, again, I probably wouldn't be batting an eyelid, because so many calls in rugby these days can go either way, but no issues. And it's 29-26 to the Lions. It sucks for the series that we don't get a decider. I really wanted a third game decider. But I think in both games, the Wallabies have been better value than the bookies' predictions. And certainly in this one, they showed that they've still got a bit of fight in them. But, man, they needed to score more after they went out to that early lead. Wright had 102 metres, 4 defenders beaten. Valentini had 28 metres in the first half. For context, like the other best Wallabies forwards, Wilson played the whole game and had 17, I think, from 13 carries. That's what I mean by, like, banging on the door, getting shut down. For context, the Lions forwards, like Byrne had 34 metres, Conan had 27 metres, even Stewart came off the bench and got 23, the reserve tight end prop. So the Lions were getting much better value out of their forward ball carriers. And defensively, like Conan made a bunch of tackles, Byrne made a bunch of tackles, Itoje good at the breakdown. I mean, yeah. I like the way the Wallabies were creative at line-out time, but their scrum was getting pinged this week, and they just, as I said, couldn't find the answers to unlocking the Lions defence in that second half. Clean breaks still finished 9-4. Defenders beaten 39-23. Turnovers conceded as against the Lions 14-9. Run meters 400 to 378. Basically all the stats, barring the territory, positions in the Wallabies. For most of the stats, if you just looked at them without knowing the score, you might think that the Wallabies won it, but nope, they didn't score as many tries. And the Lions, I think based on the second half performance, are pretty good value for their win. But there you go. You guys let us know your thoughts. If you want to buy the Lions jersey, I'm an affiliate of the British and Irish Lions store. There'll be a link down in the description. If you use it, tells them that 2 Cents Rugby directed you to their wonderful shop. Check if there's any sales on, because it's getting towards the end of the tour. Should be the time that some of the prices start to lower, but we'll kind of wait and see. You guys, let us know your thoughts on the game. What did you make of the final call? What did you make of the rest of the game, not just the final call? And yeah, I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.